Aloha! Welcome to the Bishop Museum's Library and Archives. I'm Hadley Anderson, and with me is
DeSoto Brown, the Bishop Museum historian. And today, for Throwback Thursday, the question is, what is so cool that it's frozen?
There's a lot of things that are so cool that they're frozen.
Well, but not so many things here in the Hawaiian Islands in the subtropics at about latitude 20.
Well, I would guess probably shave ice. That's
Shave ice. That's a very good point. Shave ice. Well, let's go back to the very beginning. Say 200 years ago, were there a lot of frozen things here?
I would.
Well. Let's look at that picture.
That looks like a glacier.
Okay, well, here's the point. Let's go back to before there were Western people here. Let's go back before 1778. Were there frozen icy things in the Hawaiian Islands? Yes, there were. At the top of Haleakala on Maui, and at the top of Mauna Kea, and at the top of Mauna Loa on Hawaii Island, every year there was snow and ice.
Wow.
And so for the Hawaiians, the ancient Hawaiians who lived where they could look at the summits of these volcanoes, these mountains, yes, they were familiar that this white stuff came down on the ground. And so they knew what snow was if they were in sight of it. Probably very few of them ever hiked all the way up there to experience it, but certainly a lot of people did go to the summit of Mauna Kea, as we know, because they made adzes up there. So this is a photograph from the 20th century in which you can see at the summit of Mauna Kea, seen from Hilo Harbor, because this is Hilo in the foreground with Coconut Island, you can see there's Mauna Kea. And Mauna Kea means white mountain.
Exactly.
Because it has snow on it.
So the Hawaiians even had their own snow goddess.
That's right. Poliahu was the name of the goddess who lived up in the snow area. So yes, so Pele, we are familiar with Pele because she's the goddess of the volcano, but Poliahu was another one. So now, what's the next step? Well, the next step is that by the middle 1800s, there was ice here in the Hawaiian Islands as a luxury good.
Oh.
Yeah, so, and the amazing thing is that in the northern part of North America, where it gets really cold, and the ponds and the lakes and the rivers freeze, and there's thick ice, people would go out in the winter, cut the ice up, put it in insulated warehouses, and then they could have it during the summer. They also shipped it in sailing ships all the way out here.
Oh my goodness.
And it didn't melt. Because they insulated it so well. So by 1854, there are ads in the newspaper saying, we sell ice.
Well, I hear being an ice cutter was a very, very dangerous profession.
It was. I'm sure it was. And again, now this is all occurring just because of nature, not because of electricity. There was no electricity yet to make ice. But starting in the late 1800s, we did have electric generating plants here in the Hawaiian Islands, and they made ice. They froze ice. So we no longer had to depend on ice being sent from North America in sailing ships. We could make our own ice here. And those who could afford it had what was called an ice box. And some people still use that term for refrigerator. My mother does. She's 96. And if you had an ice box, that was just a wooden box, a piece of furniture in your kitchen that was insulated, lined with metal, and the ice delivery truck would come, and that's what this picture is of, which is about 1910. The Oahu Ice and Electric Company would come to your house and deliver a big piece of ice, big block of ice, and you put it in the ice box, and it gradually melted. But then you also put other things in there that you wanted to keep cold, and thus the ice box.
My grandmother had an ice box, and we still have it in the family to this day.
And but you don't put ice in it anymore.
No, we
don't need to do that. Don't need to do that because by the 20s, people started to have electric refrigerators. But in this photograph, which is
one of our viewers wants to know, pre-1800s was ice available year-round?
In places, yes, probably in some places in New England it was. I'm not exactly sure when the ice industry began. It could have begun earlier than the 1800s, but I'm not sure. But certainly not in the Hawaiian Islands we didn't have ice. Okay, this is a photograph of one of the streets in Honolulu in about 1910, and you can see painted on this building in both English and Japanese, it says, "Ice for sale." So even if you didn't have the ice truck come and deliver ice to you, which probably was only for people who could afford it, you could go to places and purchase ice. And once people started to have ice, they could have cold drinks, and they could also keep food longer. They could keep perishable food, and particularly things like fish or meat, vegetables and fruit, not as much, but you could do those things too. And that made a big difference in people's diets. But starting in about 1940, in the late 1930s, frozen foods came on the market. Now, up until that time, most people would eat canned food. So there was canned meat, and there was canned vegetables, there was canned fruit. And so when you went to a store, you probably bought canned stuff. But starting in the late 30s, and really not becoming common until maybe the late 40s or early 50s, you could buy frozen vegetables, frozen meat, frozen fruit, and so forth. So this is a picture of the CQ Yeehop Market in 1951 in downtown Honolulu after it had been renovated, and you can see they have frozen food display fixtures that are just selling all the types of things which we today think of as absolutely normal, frozen meat, frozen whatever. Well, that didn't come along until, really for most people, until the 1950s. And we also expect, via electricity, to have cold drinks whenever we want them.
Sure do.
And not only do we have cold drinks in our own refrigerators at home, we expect there to be vending machines from which we can buy cold soda. This is a picture from probably the late 1950s in a business in Honolulu, and there is a small vending machine, Coca-Cola vending machine. This vending machine used bottles. You took the bottle out, you put your money in, you took the bottle out, you drank the soda, and then you put the bottle in a case nearby because the bottles got sent back to the bottling company to be reused. And this is before most soda was in cans. Now, there's no actual ice being used here. This is just purely a refrigerator. But again, by the 1950s, it shows that lots of people expected to have cold soda, which today we also expect, and lots of people are addicted to because there's so much of it. Well, there's another treat in addition to icy cold drinks, and that's ice cream.
Can't live without ice cream.
Can't live without ice cream. Some of us are very fond of ice cream. This is an ad from 1917, and it says, "No wonder she's happy. She's at the Kohala drugstore," which would be on the Big Island, "eating Raleigh's simply delicious pure ice cream." So it shows you by the early 1900s, there were companies, commercial companies, that were making ice cream. You could make ice cream yourself earlier, and lots of people did, so that by the late 1800s, parties, people were eating ice cream. And the ice cream maker used not only ice, but it used rock salt. I'm not quite sure what the process is. I've never quite understood it. But
I know there's a churn that's
there's a
involved with
churn,
that.
yeah. So there was a bucket, and my grandmother's house had one of these ice cream makers in the 70s. Bucket, you turned it by hand, and gradually you had ice cream. Well,
Rick wants to know.
oh yes, yes,
Was Coca-Cola bottled on the islands?
yes. Starting in 1907, there was a Coca-Cola bottling company here, but earlier than that, from the late 1800s, there had been soda bottling companies for other brands.
And when did shave ice start?
Okay, shave ice is actually a Japanese invention. And the shave ice machines are these wonderful cast iron machines which, again, use a block of ice, like what we've been talking about. And the block of ice is held on like a base. And then this rotating blade goes around and around and around and shaves off the top, and it makes this nice fluffy shave ice. Well, that probably could go back as early as, say, the teens, maybe about 100 years ago. Probably it didn't really become more common until the 20s and 30s, and certainly by after World War II, it was very commonplace. And I can remember those shave ice machines in use, and originally they were operated by a foot pedal, the way sewing machines used to be, so somebody had to stand there and make a pulley work. But by my childhood, there were electric motors that did that. Oh boy, we were really up to date, I tell you. Anyway, back to ice cream. So after certain companies began making ice cream, there became what were called ice cream parlors, or ice cream, where you could get an ice cream soda, you could get ice cream, etc. This is one of those, and it's located in Waikiki at the corner between Kuhio Avenue and Kalakaua Avenue. And this is what it looked like in this is 1945 in this photograph, towards the end of World War II. So there were a number of different companies that made ice cream, and again, there were places, just as today, we still can go to a store that just sells ice cream as a little fun thing to do. And as you are looking at this picture, I'm going to ask this week's question. And the question is, what was the name of the biggest local dairy that produced ice cream? And there are I'll give you three different things to think about and think if you can remember. The first is Foremost. The second is Hind Clark, and the third is Dairyman's. So what was the biggest company that not only produced the most local ice cream, but also was a producer of milk too? You got to be old enough to remember this. So I'll just leave it at that. So that's our Throwback Thursday for this week. It was nice and cold, wasn't it?
Yes,
nice and
absolutely.
Frozen, and made us think of nice, tasty things to eat and drink.
What's cooler than cool? Throwback Thursday. Here at
Yeah,
Bishop
frozen Throwback Thursday. Okay, so we've been coming to you from Bishop Museum, and if you can come to Bishop Museum in person, that's wonderful. Before you come, you can visit our website, and you can find out what's going on. If you can't come in person, you can come to our website and have a ball anyway.
Yeah, there's a lot of things to look at. We've got a lot of blogs going, especially concerning our researchers. So come on over to our website or our physical location and check us out.
And we would love to see you. And so, till next week and another Throwback Thursday, that's Hadley, and I'm
That's
DeSoto, and aloha.
Aloha.